Welcome to Blockchain Recorded, the podcast for the tech curious, where we talk about anything and everything related to the exponentially evolving crypto, blockchain, and Web 3.0 space. Our mission is simple: to share knowledge, facilitate discourse, and help evolve education in blockchain fundamentals, decentralization solutions, and relevant use cases for today's digital economy. I'm your host, Nina Cerar. For the next 2 episodes, my team and I are doing something different. To honor the end of our second podcast season, our team prepared a showreel of conversations that resonate with us and remind us of why we do what we do. Today, you will hear part 1 of our 2-part highlights showreel series and hear the following season 1 guests: Denis Yazbets from Fourth Tech, Tom Ivy from Edgeware Agency DAO, Igor Mosman from Blockstream, Vanina Ivanova from Ambire, and GlobaliD's Greg Kidd and Mitya Simčić. We're grateful to everyone in our community of guests, sponsors, and listeners. Without your support, we would not be who we are today. Enjoy. Before we begin, this podcast is possible by our sponsor at Ambire. The Ambire wallet is one of the top products in crypto asset management. It is the first open source, non-custodial smart wallet that delivers exceptional user experience combined with solid security. With Ambire Wallet, users can easily navigate the world of Web3. It comes packed with features like built-in swaps, cross-chain bridges, integrated earning opportunities, and more. In addition, Ambire offers things like human-readable transaction parsing, eliminating ERC20 approvals and front-running protection. The smart wallet uses gas abstractions that allow for unique features like paying for gas with stablecoins. Users can batch multiple transactions to save time and gas fees. The wallet also supports NFTs and allows you to connect to any dApp via Wallet Connect. You can use it with an email and password or add hardware wallets or hot wallets as signers to upgrade your security. And the best part? Ambire speaks human. The UI is friendly and informative, ensuring you understand what you're doing and eliminating risks for mistakes. Ambire Wallet users are currently eligible for continuous wallet token rewards. To learn more and get your Ambire account today, visit www.ambire.com. That is AMBIRE.com. Today I'm speaking with Denis Yazbets. Denis is the CTO at Fourth Tech, a veteran blockchain developer and a Kawasaki Ninja rider. Yes, you heard correctly. We will talk about blockchain, data privacy, data decentralization, decentralized data cloud storage solutions, and Denis's views as a developer. Hi, Denis, and welcome to Blockchain Recorded.
Hi, Nina.
So you're a software engineer, and I've always been curious what goes on in a developer's mind. What would be necessary to achieve full decentralization? Or maybe what would be the steps that you at Fourth Tech need to take to achieve full decentralization?
So for us to have a fully decentralized solution, we have to move our public key repository, file storage, and user identification information to a safe and decentralized storage. In some cases, it's also crucial to have a GDPR-compliant decentralized solution, which often limits our choice. We also did some research and brainstorming on this topic, which maybe brings us to develop a new decentralized storage solution.
Okay. So decentralized cloud data storage. That brings us to this topic. What is it? What does it consist of? And most importantly, how does it work?
Decentralized cloud storage is a network consisting of multiple nodes. Ideally, the network has thousands of nodes located across the globe that are independently owned and operated. And every node in a network can store data. In other words, a node is a server, computer, or any other device that can store data. And the beauty of decentralized cloud storage is that your data is very secure. At first, your data is end-to-end encrypted, which means that your data is encrypted on a user computer before it's uploaded on a network. The second thing is that the data is, in most cases, broken into pieces and then spread out to the network of nodes, which makes it extremely hard to steal your data. it's almost impossible. And the next thing is that even if some nodes are offline, you can still access your data.
I see. So more nodes means stronger decentralization. You mentioned you did research on a viable decentralized cloud data solution for Fourth Tech. Can you talk about that a bit more?
Yes, it's true that we have been working about how to approach this issue from 2017 on, when the plan was to store the encrypted exchange users' data on IPFS. To clarify, when users exchange data using our 4DX protocol, blockchain is not used to store data files, but to record links to the metadata files and their checksums. And then metadata files containing additional info, such as attachments, their checksums, subject, description, etc. The data files are being exchanged between users or between wallets, are being temporarily stored in cloud storage. To truly decentralize our solution, IPFS would be appropriate, but we could not get it to work with GDPR. The data files, once recorded to IPFS, are immutable. What we needed was a mutable solution. And the GDPR states that data can be modified or erased where necessary.
So given this GDPR factor, does this mean you can or cannot achieve data decentralization?
Decentralization of data can be achieved, but it's hard to be compliant at the same time.
Okay.
So what we're thinking now is to offer users two choices. One is to use the cloud temporary storage, where data is mutable and can be deleted. As explained previously, the 4Tech wallet-to-wallet data exchange protocol does not store any personal data on the blockchain. The data is stored off-chain. The protocol records links to encrypted files and hashes of the encrypted content on the blockchain, and the hashing of exchange data enables GDPR compliance. For example, if there were a request to delete some data, the network controller would be able to delete the requested data from off-chain storage, leaving what would then become an empty hash on-chain.
Okay, I see. And then what is the second option you mentioned?
Or to offer users a choice to select a decentralized option to temporarily or permanently store their received data. There are already 3 viable options on the market that offer data decentralization. There is the Filecoin project, SIA, and storage. Either we connect to one of the existing solutions or we develop a unique one.
Denis, thank you very much.
Thanks to having me.
Our talk today will reveal the ins and outs of the Polka Dot substrate Edgeware blockchain, its interoperability and advantages, use cases, the Edge token, for which we have some news today, the Edgeware Agency as a DAO, DeFi plans, and much more. With us, we have Tom Ivey, the director of Edgeware Agency, a chain-funded working to grow utility of Edgeware. I hope I said that correctly, and an elected council member of the network. Tom, welcome to Blockchain Recorded.
Thank you. Excited to be here. I understand this is month 2, so congrats to the new venture.
Yes, it's month 2, you're episode 4. And actually, we briefly or kind of sort of met during our roundtable with Fourth Tech. That was sort of our episode 0. I think you tuned in a little bit in the episode, so we didn't actually have a chance to personally speak, but excited to do a one-on-one with you now.
Yeah, that was a blast, and happy to be back for sure.
There's so much to ask regarding the Edgeware and Polka Dot ecosystems. But first and foremost, can you tell us about yourself and how your path has led you to the crypto blockchain world where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have a degree in the ancient world of academia in philosophy. And from there, I kind of took a strong interest in like just public and political economy. I think this is like people talk about religion and morals, and I was like, these things seem to be kind of fading in power. What is the most efficacious way to deliver improvements to people on a day-to-day basis? And I was like, okay, probably by participating in designing economies. I ran briefly for office after college in my home state of Michigan here in the United States. And that was largely an experiment. Was doing governance experiments then, doing governance experiments now, so no changes there. And I dropped out because I was very dissatisfied in the pay-to-play nature of that space, which was like they wheel you in front of the special interest groups and they say, hey, if you got to kiss the ring, agree to promises. If you do not, we will find somebody who will agree to those promises. So in the US, I just felt like, the system was blocked at the very beginning by how much money you had or how much money you could extract from special interest groups. From there, I got introduced to my old team, Commonwealth Labs. They were just beginning to conceive of Edgeware, the network. After speaking with Gavin Wood, and I can get into that later, the kind of like Edgeware origin story. And I was like, hey, you guys, it seems like you are trying to innovate in the space of governance. I think digital governance is one of the highest kind of return on investment ways to improve societies across the world. Let's hang out. And from there, we launched Edgeware. And I left Commonwealth Labs at one point and did that to help lead the agency. And Commonwealth Labs continues to participate in the network. They're council members and a massive developer contributor. The community really owns and operates the chain. So all cool stuff.
So let's just jump in and talk about the Polka Dot ecosystem. As far as I understand, so there's two structural components of the Polka Dot multi-chain, if I'm not mistaken, right? There's the relay chain and then there's the parachains. But for the relay, or just the layperson, for the regular listener, this can be really confusing as there's substrates, parachains, as I mentioned, the relay chain. Can you maybe clarify that for us a little bit so we can start off with a clean understanding?
Yeah, absolutely. So substrate, I'll start there. I prefer to call this like the WordPress for blockchains. It's a kit that is highly modular that you can deploy to build a variety of chains that focus on the kind of like business logic and use case. And we used it to deploy a smart contract platform that has on-chain governance. Meanwhile, Polka Dot used it to deploy a relay chain, which provides security to other chains. We're probably going to see a huge explosion in people using this kind of like technical stack of substrate for many different purposes. And the relationship between a parachain and a Polka Dot or a relay chain is simply one of transferring the kind of authority to validate and produce blocks or to control the state change of the chain to the relay chain network, because it obtains better kind of economies of scale. If you pool your funds, like my favorite explanation for this is a relay chain is the United Nations and parachains are member states. They're pooling their resources and their security stuff so that they can obtain a better quality with lower cost. And that's kind of like the big innovation. And in the future, we might even see non-substrate based chains connect to Polka Dot or other relay chains as parachains. But for now, substrate really enables a modular and plug and play experience. This is, it's still so new and so early in the substrate ecosystem that some of these features aren't totally present. But long term, I think it's going to be massive. It's going to be so easy to build and launch chains. It's like bring your validators, bring your business use case, and let it rip, and you'll be good to go. And sorry, go ahead.
No. Keep going. So that would be possible. You're saying that today we have the substrate concept, but in the future that won't be necessary.
Well, I'm saying that even what substrate looks like today will probably change markedly. Like you could even imagine, a one-click launch a blockchain, attract some validators, design your token economy. Substrate as a philosophy for architecting blockchain ecosystems is just profoundly different. It says let 1,000 flowers bloom. Because the costs of launching, operating, maintaining, securing them becomes so low. And if we think back to the original kind of like blockchain innovation, we were like, oh yeah, blockchains make coordinating cheaper and the transaction costs lower and the firm costs of doing business across the globe 24 hours in a secure way without an intermediary increasingly low. So substrate is like an evolution of that stage. It's like we invented the blockchain to make some things cheap, and now we're reinventing the blockchain ecosystem to make it a lot cheaper.
What about interoperability with Ethereum and other layer 1 chains? Is there a solution plan for this?
Yeah, lots of teams are thinking about this. I would guess that Dot and Kusama may be one of the first to finalize this bridge in a big way. On our side, we have a team called PicoSwap, which is looking to deploy an EVM bridge to Ethereum at some point soon. So this is not the one kind of caveat I would say is that this bridge will connect to the EVM on Edgeware. It will not connect necessarily to the whole of Edgeware. So right now we transfer tokens back and forth between like the two kind of faces of the Edgeware network. So this will connect to one side. We are still looking for the Rust, WASM, side bridge solution. That will likely come in the future. And a little shout out to some teams that are thinking about bridges in a really new way as well, as like Axelar is one of the names. So instead of connecting to, you've got 18 bridges because you want to talk to 18 chains, you might talk to one chain, and that could be Polka Dot and its community of parachains in kind of a gated wall style. Or it could be Axelar, which says bridge to us, and we'll maintain a bunch of these other bridges. So we are just beginning to see a huge explosion in solutions and innovation for bridge technology between chains, and the economic implications of that I think will be interesting and political also. And the reason I say that, and I'll get off topic for 1 second, is within Substrate, because everything is so modular, and again, plug and play, you can, the technical advantages of having any feature kind of goes away because your competitor can just plug it in too. So the difference really in my mind is, what is your community willing and not willing to do? So we'll see kind of a federation of values-based advancement, I think. And again, like that's going to look a lot more like, member states within kind of United Nations-like organizations who have common values, common goals, and who may not want to interface. Even if the interoperable technology is there, they may decide not to because of the things that blockchain specializes in or has done in the past, or the values of that community.
Yeah, and this also makes me think about your Edgeware identity. There's a mention on your website that with Edgeware, you own your identity, control your data, etc. So just sort of philosophizing a little bit more. Okay, so let's sort of take a turn. Let's talk about Edge and your token and into staking, etc. And you have some sort of breaking news, right? That happened today. We have to talk about that.
Absolutely. I was up at 1 to 4 a.m. this morning, making sure everything went pretty smoothly.
Yeah.
We launched on the KuCoin exchange. So KuCoin is rapidly growing. We're super excited to be there, and partly because it gives us accessibility to many parts of the world that our existing kind of official exchange or kind of community approved exchange, I'll say, Bittrex Global doesn't have access to. So now more people can access and participate in the Edge ecosystem than ever before. That's a big win for us. It makes us more resilient to a variety of like economic problems and attacks. And it's something the community has wanted for over about a year, really. The process used here was strange because it had never been done before. We went to KuCoin and we said, hey, we're like a DAO. There's no a main corporation here. We don't even really have a core dev because we're just a set of people cooperating and a set of organizations cooperating. How can we onboard to your exchange? And KuCoin said, that's insane. We've never done it before, but let's figure it out. So we're super grateful to them for having the patience to be innovative, especially while they've been growing at an immense rate over the past couple of years to really become like a top 5, top 10 global exchange. So we did this partly by a set of community votes on a proposal where, and if I don't know if you've ever like really gotten your head into listings before, but there's a lot of NDAs and non-disclosure agreements where the identity of the exchange and the amounts at play, whether it's for a marketing campaign or otherwise, are basically secret and you can't speak. So we had to go to our community and say, hi, we think we've got a cool opportunity here. We cannot tell you what it is.
Coinbase Ventures selected you to be part of an open financial system. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Coinbase, back when Commonwealth Labs was working on the core version of Edgeware, like pre-launch, invested, and as a result, Coinbase Ventures holds a lot of Edge tokens. So we are deeply interested in listing on Coinbase at some point. We're currently working on what's called the Coinbase Rosetta integration, which is an API that Coinbase asks projects to participate in before they can kind of go through their process. So they have, in our mind, an interest in bringing Edge to the world. They hold a lot of it, and they previously expressed interest in that. So that's kind of where things sit there. I think what they particularly liked about Edge was, again, that interest, that both the substrate technical layer as well as the governance experiments that we continue to conduct.
I hope to talk again to you soon.
Yes, Nina, thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
So today we're talking with Ivar Mosman, the Business Development Director at Blockstream. Ivar has a background in finance and has worked in sectors such as fast-moving consumer goods brand management, fashion, business consulting, government, and is a serial entrepreneur. He's been going deeper and deeper into the crypto rabbit hole since 2014 and has been doing public speeches, organized crypto meetups, and worked professionally in the crypto space since 2016 for companies such as BTCC in Shanghai, China, Ballet Physical Hardware Wallet, and since recently he joined Blockstream as the Business Development Director. So welcome, Ivar, to Blockchain Recorded.
Thank you, Nina. Great to be here.
Yeah, you have an interesting bio. I see you've jumped around throughout different industries, so fashion and government. How did all those experiences lead you to crypto? Like, what made you jump to the crypto world?
Yes. So, I mean, I think for everyone, it's, the famous story of the rabbit hole. For me, it was, so I had a background in finance and I think by spirit, I'm a bit like, I don't necessarily like authority very much. I don't like being told what to do. And I think a lot of crypto people have that thing. They have the libertarian thing, and I first heard an interview on the Joe Rogan Experience with Andreas Antonopoulos. I don't know how many thousands of people he brought into Bitcoin, but I heard it was like a 2 or 3 hour interview. He just broke it down. What is Bitcoin? And for me, it just clicked instantly. Like on not on a technical level. I didn't read the white paper. But when he explained it, I just kind of saw the vision. I see where this is leading. It was obvious to me. It's obvious, and then sort of you go deeper and deeper, and you kind of get more interested. I've always been interested in tech, computers, finance, and these things, and being a free spirit, all these things come together in crypto. I think it's political, it's philosophical, it's crypto, it's tech, it's so many different things, and it goes to the heart of like the power structure of society. So it's like such a crazy, it's a beast of a thing. So I think it just sucks in so many people. And
it definitely draws you in, right?
Get rich. Yeah.
So it was Joe Rogan. So you were listening to Joe Rogan. It's not like you came across the white paper or heard about Bitcoin, the pizza story. You basically that was what drew you in.
Yes, exactly.
I think he's pretty convincing.
He is. And I think some people you could hear. When he speaks, it's very you can pick up the truth. And he puts it very eloquently. Like I don't understand. After people, if after hear Andreas Antonopoulos speech, I don't understand how you can walk away and not be totally fascinated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, how can some people not get it?
Yeah.
Even some tech people that, they don't get it, or finance people, how can you not understand it? So I think either you truly don't understand because, I don't know, you lack a vision or whatever. I mean, because a lot of smart people that don't get it, so I sometimes struggle. So either they're being dishonest, but because they have other sort of agendas, so it's not in their interest to, so they might be lying or something. But I think if you understand crypto and Bitcoin, you have to be on Team Bitcoin, I think.
Yeah, I think it's difficult because you mentioned if you're in the corporate rat race, right? I think it's difficult sometimes to see it when you're in there. When you leave and when you're your own sort of independent, when you're working independently, like you said, you're not answering to authority, you're sort of in charge of your own self-actualization, right? I think some people just can't see it, don't see it, just maybe get influenced by the propaganda that it's a scam. So I don't know. I agree with you. I think it's hard to not have that element of doubt and say, maybe there's something here, right? So, but given all that. Yeah, given all that, so then how did you've tried different things. So I guess, why did you decide to work with Blockstream?
Right. So, so first I started, like you mentioned, I was working as a consultant for governmental services in Shanghai. So I'm Norwegian. So I worked for the Norwegian Consulate General there. For the commercial section, I was on the business side helping Norwegian companies come to China and to Shanghai, do market research, be sort of the connecting link between China and Norway. And that's really cool because it's very interesting to me. That's why also I moved to Shanghai. It's an adventure. It's the new Wild West, it's the Wild East, where all the opportunities are. For an entrepreneur, I moved there because I thought that, wow, that's amazing. Like, I have to go to China. This is the new thing. So, and then I worked for the government there. So even though it's kind of cool, it was commercial. It was like consulting oriented and stuff like that. Yeah, I was still in the government structure, and I quickly saw like, man, like how the governments work,
Yeah.
And it's like this whole, man, there's so many, like, let's not even go into that rabbit hole, but I saw a lot of issues there.
Yeah, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not even go there. Let's focus on the positive side, on the solution, which is crypto.
Sure.
Yeah. So then, and again, like when you go into the rabbit hole, you kind of get more and more into it. You get more and more passionate. The more you read, the more interested you are. And then at some point I thought, man, like, okay, so I worked for the government. I also had my own company that I was running. So I had like those two things that I was doing. And then I found crypto and Bitcoin. I thought, man, this is much more important. I have to dedicate myself to this. And so I applied for a job at BTC China, which was one of the three big exchanges in China. And that's how it started, basically.
And now Blockstream, right? So
and now Blockstream. Yes. So, like, the reason, I think the question as well, like, why did I, what led me to Blockstream and why Blockstream now? I also worked for another company called Ballet, which is a crypto company that develops and sells physical hardware wallets. That was Bobby Lee. He was the CEO, co-founder of BTC China as well. So I was helping him to set up that company, and I transitioned to Blockstream because like, I think it's all about the people and sort of how they think and what they do. And if you look at the crypto space, you look at all the different companies. There's so many different companies now that are doing different things. But I want to help Bitcoin. I want to help Bitcoin succeed. That's for me important. And so if I look at all the different companies in the crypto space, Blockstream, I think, really sticks out for many reasons. The first reason is being the people. I mean, there's legends. Obviously, you have Adam Back, which is like legendary, cypherpunk.
Right. Yeah,
he has,
speaks
like,
for itself.
Exactly. So his philosophy I think is very important to me, like the morals, and they're in it for Bitcoin. They're really trying to do the hard work that other people may not want to do. And then you have other people like Gregory Maxwell. He doesn't work there anymore. He used to be the CTO. Peter Woolley. Andrew Polstra, Christian Becker, all these people. And Samson, I used to work with Samson Mao at the BTCC as well. So, he works for Blockstream, he's the CSO there. And so number one is the people. I really wanted to, well, first of all, it's the, how I want to dedicate my time and energy, to help Bitcoin. Where can I best do that? So for me, that was Blockstream because of the people there and the morals, their alignment to the Bitcoin ethos, and also what they're developing. So if you look at the products that Blockstream have, it's really pretty insane.
Yeah, well, you actually talk to us about that. So Blockstream's focus is the development of the Bitcoin network, just like what you've alluded to. Talk to us more about that. Yeah,
so I think a lot of companies in the crypto space they sort of use the Bitcoin network. They see it as a sort of a finished product, and they plug into it, and they just sort of use or exploit it. Not exploit it in a negative way, and just saying like they're Bitcoin exchanges. They build tech, but they're not necessarily sort of promoting the infrastructure of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is Bitcoin is two things. It's a token, and then it's a network. So Blockstream, I think, really sticks out because they're and they also call themselves a Bitcoin infrastructure company. So Blockstream is really trying to improve the network of Bitcoin, to make it better, to do the hard lifting, to build the roads, not just use the roads, So I think that's the first thing that sticks out. So some of the products that they do, and also number two, like they're a conglomerate, meaning they're in some of the different sectors of the industry,
So what else? What else can you take us through?
Well, there's something called Blockstream Data Services, or also called the Cryptocurrency Data Feed, which is it's a partnership between Blockstream and ICE. ICE is an acronym for Intercontinental Exchange. So they're like the leading provider to traditional finance, and so they actually own and operate 12 exchanges globally, including the New York Stock Exchange. And so they have data services where, they provide institutions with financial data. And traditionally, they have not given access, or had any cryptocurrency parts. But I think it was 2018. I mean, I've just been with Blockstream for about 2 months, so I don't know all the history. But
Sure.
2018, where basically Blockstream, we take data from cryptocurrency data from multiple sources, exchanges, and we clean up, process, and analyze this data, and then we send it to ICE, and then they will then give that data to their institutional clients. So it's like providing reliable crypto data to institutions that need reliable data, because a lot of the in the crypto world, you have a lot of different exchanges. So what are the prices? Like how to figure out what is the true price of Bitcoin at any time. There's a lot of exchanges.
Right.
There's a lot of a lot of things going on there. What is real volume? What is fake? And things like that. So Blockstream is sort of helping to bring.
So this is definitely this is more transparent. What else within the Blockstream ecosystem, I guess within the mining topic? What about renewables? Are you in renewable energy? Are you in this? Are you following it? Are you implementing it? How do you stand with that?
Absolutely. So, I mean, let me answer that question, but first, let me sort of take a step back and then sort of say a little more what we're doing. So I mentioned proprietary mining. That's one thing. We also do miner hosting, also called colocation services. So basically, so imagine, if you want to get exposure to Bitcoin mining, it's fairly complicated, because you have to know, number one, you have to understand the miners, the hardware. Which miner do you buy, which is most efficient. And you should buy at scale. The more you buy, the better. So there are economies of scale by mining Bitcoin. You should also have connections that helps, to the producers. You should have fast delivery, so it doesn't, so basically from when you buy the miners to when you receive the miners and plug them in, it should be fast. And you should have cheap electricity. You should have a stable electricity supply. You should have a safe facility where you store them. There's maintenance involved. There's upgrading. If a miner fails, you have to repair it. You have to have the software to run it. Do you join a mining pool? There's all these different things. So to really get exposure to fixed income of mining, the mining revenue, it's very complicated. So we have miner hosting colocation services, where we basically provide reliable infrastructure, secure facilities, and a software management platform. So you just, we either can help you buy miners, or you can just, send your miners to us, and then we'll plug them in. You'll get our software, everything.
That's a great system.
Yeah, exactly. It sort of helps more people to get into mining without having to be an expert in all these different things. So that's another thing we do. We also have a new product called Modular Mining Unit, or MMU.
Okay.
So this is basically, let's say you operate and run a power plant, or a facility where you basically you're in the business of generating energy and supply electricity to the grid. So there's obviously this is difficult. There are issues involved in that as well, because if you run let's say renewable energy, like you do wind or hydro, stuff like that, or solar, your energy production is not constant, because it depends on nature.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And also the grid demand is also not constant. So there will be times when you have, let's say, you have too much electricity produced or too little.
Of course.
So there's and times when you have too much energy produced, you have excess electricity production versus the demand. Right. So what you can do then, you could either store it, which I guess which what Tesla's doing with the power walls, or you could just waste it, which a lot of power companies, they do. Simply.
Right. That's always been a problem. Right.
Exactly. Or now with Bitcoin, you could convert the electrical energy into monetary energy. You can just convert it to money, which hasn't been possible before. Like you plug a Bitcoin miner in, and you literally convert electrical energy to monetary energy. it's like for me, it's like if you imagine that you have you suffer a wound, you cut your finger with a knife or something like that, and you sort of bleed.
Yeah.
So there's a leak, blood is running out. So what do you do? You put a Band-Aid on, and the body even, the blood coagulates. Mm-hmm. It wants to clog the leak, and if you have a power plant that produces too much energy, it's like a leak. You have all this energy that's leaking out. So you take a Bitcoin miner, kind of like the analogy of the Band-Aid, and you plug the Bitcoin miner into the energy, and you fix the leak, and you convert that wasted energy into money. And that also helps the overall finances of the power plant. Sometimes if you want to set up, let's say, a renewable. You asked about renewable energy and stuff like that. And we also have a project there actually that we're doing with Square. But let's say you're setting up power plants. Let's say renewable, because that's important. That now that we move to sustainable energy production,
of course.
Then so you set up a power plant, and then you have to figure out the P&L, the finances, because you have to have investors and you have to show a positive ROI over the next X years.
Sure.
And if you have a Bitcoin miner as an added, let's say, product, it could help to overall increase the overall profitability of the renewable energy farm, which helps people to build more renewable energy farms. Because it's an added way to earn more money, to increase the revenue and profitability. So Bitcoin will help to facilitate and for more renewable energy facilities to be built.
So many interesting topics. I mean, great products that you speak of with Blockstream. You did just start your path there, but I wish you all the best and good luck. And thank you so much for your time. And like I said, I hope to see you back soon. Or hear from you back soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ivar.
Great. Thank you, Nina.
So with us today, we have Vanina Ivanova, the Chief Marketing Officer at Ambire. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes.
Formerly the ADX network. In Vanina's career, she has managed marketing and communications projects for various industries. Her work in the fintech industry led her to blockchain and decentralized technology, which she happily embraced. And for the past 5 years, she has been running the marketing of Ambire ADX and now of Ambire Wallet as well. Her team has the hard task of translating crypto to everyday language and communicating with both crypto native and non-crypto audiences. Welcome, Vanina, to Blockchain Recorded Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Nina. It's a real pleasure to be a guest on your podcast.
Thank you. But let me also mention, you've changed the name correctly from ADX, which was the name previously. You added Ambire, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, indeed. Well, there's a little bit of backstory that I need to tell you to understand why we rebranded. When we started back in 2016, we were working on a video streaming platform that was gaining a lot of traction, and we wanted to monetize it. So this video streaming hub called Streamio, for it we tried a few different ad networks, and they all underperformed. They didn't really meet our expectations, and we tried another one and another one and another one. And at one point, we decided that this is not working for us, and we can just create our own ad network. So this is how the idea of ADX Network was born. This is our origin story. And back then, ADX Network worked really well because ADX comes from Ad Exchange, and this is what we were building. 5 years into this adventure, we have already built our ad platform, and it has about 17,000 registered corporate users, which is great. And the platform is not a baby anymore. It's in preschool now, so it has its own life, and it requires a lot less attention from from our side. So that led us to another problem that we were facing, and that was using different crypto wallets that, again, they didn't underperform, but they didn't match our expectations in terms of UX. They were confusing. They were complicated, unnecessarily complicated. And we're crypto native people. And we thought, imagine if a non-crypto person has to deal with a wallet that is talking about nonces and gas limits, and people have no idea what is that and why they shouldn't touch one thing or they should adjust the other thing. So that's how we decided to take a bit of the technology that we already have and reuse it and repurpose it to create a new product, which is a DeFi-centered cryptocurrency wallet. And once we decided doing that and started working on the wallet, that it was initially going to be called the ADEX wallet because we had the brand recognition with ADEX Network. But it was confusing because we were working on the actual product. We hadn't redone our website. We had a page on the website for the wallet, but it was confusing. We were telling people that we're building a wallet, leading them to a website of an ad network. So at one point we decided that it was time to rebrand and to kind of come up with a new brand that would encapsulate what we actually do and be able to host all of the products that we create under the same hood, because I'm sure that the wallet is not going to be the last thing that we do. We're just beginning.
You're in preschool.
So that's how we came up with the idea of the rebranding, and that's why we decided to go ahead and rebrand to Ambire. And that's actually, I mean, it doesn't. The word Ambire doesn't mean anything in English, but it's an Italian verb that means to aspire, to want more, and that's what we do. That's what we do. So we figured it was really, really fitting to our DNA, to our company DNA, and that's why today we have Ambire as a company, and then under the hood we have Ambire ADEX, the ad network, and Ambire Wallet that will be released super soon for the general public. It's now in private beta.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, we'll definitely get to that. So given what you've said so far, I take it you've been in this space for a long time. Well, it's in blockchain speak, that's like decades probably. But I was wondering if I could get your take on the evolution of the crypto and blockchain industry sort of for the past couple of years, what they meant for you.
Well, if I have to sum it up in one phrase, the past few years have been a roller coaster for me. Emotional, technological, and business roller coaster, if you wished. Because as you know, things develop so quickly. There are literally new products and new paradigms coming up overnight. Things that didn't exist the previous day, and we need to get acquainted with and learn the next day to stay on top of things. So yeah, the past few years have been insane. I first heard of cryptocurrency back in, I think, 2013. And back then there was just Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Dogecoin. That was it. And also back then I was working in the fintech industry, and I only considered them from an economical perspective, from a financial perspective. I never really got into the technological part. Back then, we weren't talking about blockchain. Nobody had heard about blockchain. Right. And then just a mere 3 years later, blockchain was blowing out. It was beginning to get so big with Ethereum and smart contracts and the ability to create your own dApp relatively easily. And that's when we got into that game. That's when we started working on ADEX Network, and things changed so much. I still sometimes revisit our very first version of the white paper of ADEX Network, and I read things and I'm like, oh my God, that seems so stupid. Why did we go that way?
You're
and
probably not the only one.
Yeah, and then I remember, oh yeah, we went that way. Yeah. Because the other technology didn't exist yet. The other protocol didn't exist yet. So that's how incredibly fast-paced the industry has been. And I, as a part of that industry, I have I have felt every little bit of it in terms of informational overload, in terms of excitement for new technology, in terms of ideas of what we can do with blockchain. So these have been a few very, very exciting years for me.
2017 was sort of the ICO era. And in terms of crypto and blockchain and marketing, a lot was promised in 2017, just with all the different industries. So where do you think you are now in terms of, you said you're in preschool era, but where do you think you are in this sort of solution track?
Well, I think that we are so much, I know it's probably going to sound a little bit arrogant, but we are so far ahead than we were 5 years ago. That it's unbelievable. I mean, I'm looking at our company, at our team. I'm looking at myself and trying. It's unfathomable how much we've learned and how much we've created during those past years. Because as you said, 2016, 2017, the golden age of ICOs, a lot was promised and very little was delivered, sadly. One of the reasons for that was that some teams just didn't follow through. Other teams lost their funding in the crypto winter that followed shortly after that. So they couldn't go on. But our team persevered, and today we like to joke that we're one of the OGs in crypto. But the joke aside, and I can say that, and I don't, even if it does sound arrogant, I'm super proud to work with these people. But our team is one of the most competent teams in crypto today, in terms of understanding the blockchain technology, in terms of understanding Ethereum and smart contracts and alternative chains. The Ambire team is incredible, and the learning process is ongoing with us. So there hasn't been a time when we've stopped even for a second to take a breath, if you wish. It has been an ongoing, I'll say grind, but I don't mean it in a negative, connotation. Like, it has been very exciting for us to learn and develop and acquire these new skills that we have today.
So how many devs do you have? How big is your team?
The team right now is about 20 people. I'm not, to be honest, I'm not sure how many of them are devs. I would need to count, but approximately half of them are developers. And then the other half are marketing, sales, customer support, and administrative professionals. So yeah, we're just a handful of people doing incredible things. And if you don't mind me, another thing that I would like to mention here, and I think that's important to kind of like, to finish answering the question where we are today. The core team of ADX Network, the people who began ADX Network in 2016, is the same team that we have today. We have just been adding people, and nobody has left, which is
good for you.
I know, that's incredible. So that's why I like to brag about it.
Well, that's pretty incredible. That's pretty incredible. So you definitely are the OG in all different, in all respects. Well, let me take now a step further. I actually did glance at your white paper, and so you actually have a sentence. So you say that the protocol that ADX puts forth combines traditional peer-to-peer technology, cryptography, and blockchain. So clearly you see a blockchain as a solution to what you deem, or to the problem that you actually defined before. Can you actually take us through what that means with respect to marketing or ad solutions, and actually how do you use blockchain?
Well, when we first started using blockchain, we thought that we had a different idea, but again, the technology was not mature enough. So things have changed a lot in the past few years. But the one solution that I think is most valuable for the ad tech industry is our Outpay solution that basically allows micropayments on Ethereum, and each impression on our ad network is a micropayment. So publishers get paid per impression. And because it's a payment on Ethereum, it's written on the blockchain. Of course, they're batched for optimization, but they're all written on the blockchain, and that allows 100% traceability, and that allows both publishers and advertisers to verify that, yes, this is the number of impressions that they got, this is the number of clicks that they got, this is the money that they paid for their advertising campaign. So basically, we're using the blockchain to bring in that, to bring back that transparency that the ad tech industry has lost in time, and to make sure that everyone has an independent way to track their advertising budgets or track their advertising net revenues. So I think that's the biggest contribution that we've made to the space so far. And then on the other hand, we also use contextual targeting, which means that the ads that are broadcast on a particular website are matched to the topic of that website. So the user doesn't get profiled. The end user, we collect zero data about the end user.
Okay, that was one of my questions. You collect zero data. How? Okay. So can the marketing? Sorry, but can the ad industry? We're all used to we all just know that the ad industry collects all of our data. Can the ad industry survive without that?
It can. In the long term, it can.
If you want to systematically change it, right? I
mean, when you think about it, that was the way we had ads. 10 years ago, and we were doing fine.
Right.
We were doing just fine. So I think it is a sustainable model. It is not ideal in the sense that it provides a targeting that is not so precise. But again, it protects user privacy. It gives us back the power to say, I don't want you to track me. I don't want you to know what my purchasing habits are. I don't want you to intrude my personal life at that level. So yes, it is possible, because I'm not being profiled, and the platform doesn't know that I have already seen this ad on this site today. It may show me the same ad on another site, and it will not target me as precisely. But it's a way to go, and I think that it's a very healthy way to go in order to bring back ethics to the space and make sure that people are not being profiled. Because the way it works basically is, say you are on a website about cars and you're reading about cars, and then the ads that you will see on that site with contextual advertising would be ads for, car parts or car dealerships or car washes, if you wish. So you have a little bit of variety with that type of targeting. It's really not as precise as profiling. But it's not intrusive, it's not invasive. And I think that at the end of the day, it's not ideal for advertisers, but that's what people want. Right. And at the end of the day, I think that is what will prevail.
Right. It should. And you mentioned you're also involved in the wallet. So you have your Ambire ADX wallet. Is that what it's called? Or
it's just Ambire wallet. Yeah.
Ambire wallet. Okay.
Ambire wallet is something that I am so excited about. I literally, all of my friends don't want to hang out with me anymore because that's all I talk about.
That's all you talk about.
Ambire wallet. Yeah, as I said, we noticed a problem, and the problem is that we use crypto a lot. We use DeFi protocols. And these are complex. Even for us, they're complicated. We don't always get it. How does this thing work? How does that thing work? And we want to be able to use more and more of these. But it gets frustrating at one point. So that's how we decided to create a new wallet that will make things easy, and that will kind of like get everything under the same hood. And that's how we came up with the concept of Ambire wallet. Right now we are in private beta, and I've had my greedy hands on that wallet for some time now, and let me tell you, it's glorious. If I may say so myself, it's a lovely wallet that would allow people to, first of all, to log in with a username and password, while providing you the necessary security to be protected and to have your crypto assets safe. But you can still log in with a username and a password. And that means that you can log in from any device, and it doesn't have to be Web3 enabled, and it doesn't have to have a browser extension or whatever, because, you know, I still find myself struggling with MetaMask on mobile devices, for example, or other wallets on mobile devices. And you can't even connect a hardware wallet to a mobile device. Then again, with Ambire Wallet, you'll be able to log in with an email and password. But if you want, you can connect a MetaMask address to it, or you can connect a hardware wallet, which will give you an additional layer of security for your transactions and for your assets. It will allow you to tap into different protocols from DeFi with one click, literally with one click. The other day, I put some money into Aave with one click.
Oh,
it was
really?
It was amazing. I was so excited to be able to do that, because we have already integrated that, and later on we're going to integrate more protocols, more DeFi protocols like Compound and Earn, and you can easily transact. You can switch between networks again with a single click, and it happens just so quickly and so flawlessly. And the most important thing about Ambire Wallet is that we have really focused on user experience and the user journey, because we want to make things. There are so many complexities that are being associated with having a crypto wallet, but we're getting this and handling it under the hood. So on top of that, people have a really seamless experience, and it's really easy for them. We allow transactions batching. We eliminate Ethereum approvals, you know, all these things that are complicated and confusing for even for crypto native people, let alone non-crypto people. We want to have a wallet, basically. I mean, that's my, you know, I'm speaking from my personal experience here, but I think that also goes for the rest of the team. We want to have a wallet that we can give to our parents. And they can use it without calling us 10 times an hour to ask, what is this and what is that?
Of course, or just to be able, I think that's exactly what the problem is in general, you know, making it, I think the first hurdle is trust, right? Yes. For that generation to start also interacting in the space. I think a lot of the generation of my parents, baby boomer generation, I think they, like you said, user experience, ease of use. So it's intuitive, but I think the biggest thing is trust and privacy and safety. Right.
Exactly. I've had this conversation.
People are still wary of, I'll be honest, even for myself, to have a mobile wallet.
I understand where you're coming from. And yeah, I went through that as well. Now, to be honest, today I'm very comfortable with using mobile wallets as well, because I know where where I can be potentially vulnerable, so I can protect myself. But again, you know, for a regular person, you can't expect them to go through this learning curve. You can't expect people to get a degree in cybersecurity just so that they can use a crypto wallet on their phone.
Yeah, we all kind of had to do that, but yeah,
it's insane, and that's also a communications problem. I've had this conversation with my own mother, who's a university professor in her late 60s. Wow. So she's curious about crypto. She wants to invest in crypto. She wants to, you know, to look into that, to play with it a little bit. But I don't let her, because it's too confusing. And I know my mom, and I know that, you know, where she can mess up things, and I know how easily she can lose her assets if she uses an existing solution. So that's why, you know, I'm waiting for Ambire Wallet to be released for everyone, so that I can onboard my mom. But when we speak about crypto, she tells me she's confused and it sounds too complex and she's too old for this. And I'm like, no, you're not too old. Nobody's too old or too young for this, obviously.
No,
you don't need to understand the technology. Yeah, the technology behind it is really complex and it's confusing, but you don't need to understand it. You need to have a tool that lets you transact without having to understand that. And I think that this is what we're doing. Because if you think about it, not so long ago, credit cards were not a thing, and people didn't understand and didn't use credit cards. cards. And today, again, my mom would take out her credit card in any store and pay for her groceries or pay for a plane ticket or whatever with her credit card. And she feels comfortable with that. She trusts it. Exactly. The question, the matter of trust. She trusts the credit card and she feels like she understands it. And I'm like, okay, that's not the case here. Really, let's talk about it. Do you actually know how credit cards work? Do you know what a payment processor is? Do you know what a BIN sponsor is? Do you know, how transactions get routed and approved? What's the risk management procedure for every credit card transaction? And this is where you have these few seconds of silence, and and my mom goes, "Oh, right, okay." So we need to. I think this is what we need to overcome in terms of communicating blockchain to people, in terms of that communication goes through UX and through user journeys that are simple and easy to understand. I would like to leave one message with the audience of the podcast. It would be, tell your friends about blockchain, tell your non-crypto friends about crypto, and try to get people excited, because we're all fighting for mass adoption, and mass adoption is slow. And it's slow because blockchain is slow, and because gas fees are high, and because people are afraid of blockchain, and it sounds big and scary and complex. Talk to your friends about crypto and try to educate as many people as possible. Look into all the positives that blockchain and crypto have, empowering the unbanked and allowing people to get their privacy in their own hands. And we'll get there, maybe slower than we expected, but we will get there.
Well, thank you. Thanks for that. We'll love to hear how your progress is going, and maybe hope to have you soon on again, maybe one of your colleagues or you. And we'll hopefully speak with you again soon.
Indeed. Thank you for having me, Nina.
So today we have with us Mitja Simčić, the co-founder and CTO at GlobaliD, as well as Greg Kidd, also the co-founder and CEO at GlobaliD. Greg, Mitja, welcome to Blockchain Recorded.
Thanks for having us. Great to be here.
Great. Thanks to you. Can you each maybe introduce yourselves and give us a short bio? I can let you decide, whoever wants to go first.
Sure, I'll go first. My name is Mitja. Originally, I'm from Slovenia, and my background is computer science. I also did the MBA. I was kind of always fond of the internet. I started in the very early 90s when I was still a kid, built my first computer together, and then that kind of led me to found my first startup when I was 22, and kind of never looked back from the entrepreneurial kind of world. And then approximately 8 years ago, I got the opportunity to move to US, and I chose Silicon Valley. Started to work with some big companies there, and along the way I met Greg, and a couple of years later he introduced to me this idea of GlobaliD and how we need to kind of change the world, and then how the world's broken. And the more we talked about it, the more I was intrigued by the idea, and then soon after we kind of co-founded GlobaliD.
Did I actually, just to take a few steps back, did you build your computer when you were young in the 90s? Did I understand that correctly?
I mean, yeah, I just bought the components and kind of
the components
together. Yeah.
Very cool. Greg, can we hear about you?
Sure. I grew up on the East Coast, went to school on the East Coast, went to work at Booz Allen, was involved with the telecom dereg, some financial services dereg. Started my own company actually in the bike messenger industry. We learned a lot about text messaging and payments. That spread throughout the world, went public. But importantly, Jack Dorsey was very interested in Dispatch, hacked into that. I hired him. And so we lived together a couple of times on and off. And therefore, I was lucky enough to be with him when he started Twitter. So I was just very early in there, both as an investor and did some work there. And same for Square. I had taken some time off to work at the Federal Reserve in the payments group, where we run the ACH and the wire system for the United States. And so I got that regulatory perspective as well, and continued to work in regulatory advisory work when I moved back out to Silicon Valley, but also moonlighted. And after Twitter and Square, was involved in startups like Coinbase and Ripple, where I was the chief risk officer. So got involved in the crypto industry and remained interested in what forms of digital identity would work with these new technologies. And so the genesis of GlobaliD was to create a form of self-sovereign portable identity where your identity could be used again and again in a privacy-preserving yet secure way, and teamed up with Mitja and the team in Slovenia to build that infrastructure all the time while continuing to invest through our investment company, Hard Yaka, which now includes a portfolio of approximately 200 companies all around the world. That brings me up to today.
Wow, that's a very rich background. And how was working with Jack Dorsey? That must have been interesting. Those were maybe his first steps.
Well, Jack was great at teaching me about new technology. So, for instance, I learned about Java from Jack, but he was always a very simple and deliberate thinker. And so it was critical to see him take what we built for the bike messenger industry, which was 140 characters and text messaging, and strip that down and generalize it for Twitter. So I'm grateful for the chance to see Jack's simplifying methodologies, which was critical for the formation of Twitter, and also keeping Square and Square Cash really simple, and that's been a big part of its success. So Jack's always been good and better than I at making things simple. And I'll continue to find that to be like a guidepost for me going forward, hopefully for GlobaliD as well.
So it sounds like you have a very keen eye for also the regulatory aspect for the crypto space, given your background.
We do have a keen eye for the regulatory aspect. Some of the firms we've been involved with have been in some of the disputes, like Ripple with the SEC. And there are ongoing licensing issues and also ongoing legal issues we've had with who owns the data. Does Facebook own your data because it's servers, or do you own your data? And so we have been involved in what we would call the reg tech industry as well, which involves sometimes litigating to clarify rights about things to do with crypto or things to do with data. And so that's been a big part of our effort as well, not only writing software, but also clarifying legal precedents around these new technologies.
Maybe Mitja, what brought you to the decentralized world? And when did you actually discover that blockchain tech would be suitable for fixing or dealing with digital identity?
It's kind of like a funny story. We were working on one of our startups and we were deciding what the next idea should be. And one of the ideas was actually, hey, we should maybe mine the Bitcoin. And that was very early on. That was like 2011. And at the time, I mean, the developers came to me and said, oh, but why shouldn't we just mine the Bitcoin? That's going to be a good thing. And I was, it was just too risky for me at the time. So I kind of said, no, we'll pass this one and work on something more tangible. And then when I moved to US, that was when the first crypto boom happened. But that was when the Bitcoin price went over $1,000. So I started to kind of put more thought into it, and I started learning more about the technologies and so on. And actually, the first project Greg and I did together was a web wallet, a web XRP wallet. So and that actually got me really close to all the different protocols and different things. So I got really deep into it. And then when the identity came, it was kind of like a natural. The blockchain was kind of like a natural solution for it, because it belongs to the people. It doesn't belong to anybody. That there's no central authority and things like that. So that's where kind of like the deeper dive happened. That was 2016, 2017. And yeah, I never looked back from there.
Maybe if one of you can take us through its evolution with Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and now with Web 3.0, what does that mean and how it's progressed?
Sure. I mean, I think I can field that one. So I think a big event in digital identity happened over 10 years ago with the creation of OAuth it was actually by Twitter, which created a way that you could use your Twitter identity to log into other sites and log into other sites in a way that those other sites wouldn't actually get your credentials. They would just get a token. And so it was the beginning of having the identity of one site be usable at other sites. And then Facebook did Facebook Connect, and those two social media sites became popular login methods for other sites. And so that began to address the issue of portability. It was still Twitter and Facebook owning your identity, but at least you could make it reusable. And, with Google and Apple joining in on that, people got pretty used to seeing those 3 or 4 different login options at many, many websites. But as we learned from the Cambridge Analytica scandal, the cost of all that was those sites had your identity information and they weren't too circumspect with keeping that private. They were willing to resell your data and use it for advertising purposes. And so you became their product, even though you weren't paying for their services. And so that has at various times been annoying to problematic in terms of it being used to like target people to tip elections and whatnot. And so while that form of portable identity works, it's controlled by, the four big major tech companies in the search and identity space. And so the question is, what's the alternative to that? And that's really where self-sovereignty comes in. And right now, there still isn't an overall competing protocol that's accepted globally where you could expect when you go to a site, you're still expecting to see, an option mostly from Facebook and Google and sometimes Apple. But really, Facebook and Google have become the dominant players. But it was Twitter that originally came up with OAuth and OAuth 2. Michi, did you want to add anything in on that?
No, that was perfect. I mean, maybe just a small anecdote in Web 1 sphere. When I remember back in the 90s, we used things like BBS bulletin board systems, and then the IRC chat came along and so on. So it was funny because even though everybody was completely anonymous, I knew half of the people there. So it was great for Web 1. But now that pretty much the whole humanity is online, it's we need something else. And the self-sovereignty is what we think the answer to this.
And Greg, before you also mentioned a key word, credentials. Can you maybe unpack that?
Sure. A credential.
Keep going.
So you can almost think of a credential as like if you went on an Easter egg hunt and you collected a bunch of badges, and the badge might be like a proof that you control a certain phone number, or that you match a photo on a certain government ID, or that you log into a financial account or a social network, or even packs like a CAPTCHA or a liveness test. Each of these proofs is a statement that at such and such a time you did or you could prove such and such to another party. And if you write that down in a cryptographically secure way, it's a credential, or you can think of it like a badge. And it might be that, hey, I can fly a helicopter, or hey, I really did graduate from that university, or I really do collect this phone number. And you can collect those proofs and share them or display them publicly without revealing the underlying information. So people know that you've passed a certain level of proofs, but they don't get to know the underlying information unless you really want to share that with them. And in many situations, having those credentials, those proofs, is enough to get you permission to act, because you're always relying on some other party to trust your identity and the credentials about it to make a decision whether to board this airplane or whether to process this payment. Those are all based on some level of trust. And the question is, how can you earn and share trust or convey it without actually having to reveal personally identifiable private information? So credentials is a short phrase for encapsulating that in a standard logic that we can cart around, just like we could wear like buttons on our jacket to tell people that we belong to a certain club or have achieved a certain level of competence.
What are the differences in digital identity for individuals, for private individuals versus companies, or are there differences?
Sure. So companies, they have different credentials as well. So lots of companies, especially in regulated industries, have a license. And that's perhaps the most important credential that they have. But they have other credentials too, like that they've received incorporation, and they can also prove that they control particular bank accounts or other credentials as well. So they talk about know your customer, KYC, but there's also KYB, know your business as well. So both people and organizations, including DAOs or LLCs or corporations, or really any group, have the same challenge. What's their name? What credentials do they have? And can you trust them?
Great, thanks. I actually, I read an article on your Medium blog titled "Every Company is an Identity Company," saying that we've now reached the stage where every company is going to be an identity company, right? What, maybe, Mitya, I'd like to get your thoughts on that. Maybe you can dive deeper.
Yeah. So the way we look at this is that if you look at like stages that I as a user go through with any service that's out there, it all kind of starts with identity. So we started to use this term internally, like every company is going to be an identity company. And we started to use that because also kind of like in historical terms, when we look at the Web 1 was the process from going from Web 1 to Web 2 was all about, every company now is going to be an online company. So, and in the early 2000s, all of the businesses were kind of shifting online, and they were doing not just the websites, but they were building services online. And then in kind of like early kind of years of like maybe right after Facebook became known and so on, we could say now that every company has become kind of this social company, and it was all about finances as well online. And that took us all the way from 2010s. But now in 2020s, we believe that companies are realizing more and more, as well as users, that their identity is actually the most important thing. And it all kind of starts with identity. That's why we came up with the phrase of every company is an identity company. And that's for sure is going to take us through 2020s.
Yeah, definitely. Let's shift to GlobaliD. So what is GlobaliD, and how has it evolved from your beginnings, so since your inception? And what exactly are you aiming to solve? I mean, you've alluded to it before.
Yeah, I'll take a shot at that, yes. So we've been working on GlobaliD for almost 6 years now, and the vision has always stayed the same. We started with the vision of, hey, something needs to change, and we want to live in a better kind of internet world, online world, where we control our own identities. When we started, we didn't have any there were no protocols out yet, so we came up with our own kind of proprietary protocol that we called attestations, and that's exactly what Greg talks about when he says credentials. But it has evolved a lot since then. We now are a member of W3C, where we're working on standards called verifiable credentials and decentralized identifiers. So we're kind of trying to help push these protocols out there so that everybody uses the same protocols. And if that happens, then all of a sudden identity becomes interoperable. One of the things along the way that we learned very early on is that identity itself is not gonna do it. Like we cannot build kind of like this good app if people are only going to use it for some sort of purpose, like only maybe just to login and so on. So we kind of added 2 additional layers on top of that. One is communication layer, and the other one is value layer. Mm-hmm. So communication layer is all about exchanging information, and value layer is all about exchanging value. So and with those things in mind, what the one thing, if we were to describe what GlobaliD kind of solves for is trust. And then the idea is really that down the line, when I have built this identity and I put so and so many credentials to it, I had so and so many communications with different people and services, and I've exchanged so and so much value. If we fast forward 20 years from now, my identity could be very reputable, and maybe there is a world out there in the future where somebody does not have to look at my PII, does not have to know my name, my date of birth, or where I'm from, or whatever, but it could be enough that they've seen all of the actions that I've done in the past, and that could mean that that's enough for me to get the bank account, to open the doors or anything like that. So that's kind of like really what we're trying to solve with GlobaliD, to kind of this future world of, Greg likes to call it Star Trek world, where kind of like everything's kind of like easy and the doors just open for you. Greg, do add to that as well.
That's it. I mean, I would say the one sort of twist that's unique to GlobaliD is we push the concept of a namespace, which is that every person, every organization has a unique name, and you can have more than one name, but no 2 people can have the same name. And you just attach all these credentials to that. And if your name has a good enough reputation, you kind of get the Rolls Royce treatment wherever you go, without having to like give up a lot of private information. And so it's kind of old fashioned that if you actually build a reputation around a name, you may not have to actually technically share so much information, because the other party can simply trust your reputation. So it's a very old fashioned, almost tribal concept, but it could actually operate now at global scale. And so we're all in on the namespace. It was the thing that let the World Wide Web make the internet usable by people and by businesses, as opposed to just governments and academic institutions. Because when the World Wide Web came along, it had a namespace. You could go to Coca-Cola.com and you were pretty confident that that was Coca-Cola, and you didn't have to know some numerical address. And so just like there was a domain namespace back in the 1990s, we're introducing the idea of an identity namespace here in this decade.
Greg, did you watch Star Trek? The fact I was just before Mitya mentioned that you have that vision. Does that mean that you're a Trekkie?
I was a Trekkie, and the things that were amazing was, the doors knew how to open for the good guys and stay closed for the bad guys. Everybody in the future seemed to know how to buy dilithium crystals. Didn't matter whether you were a Romulan or a Klingon or from the Federation. Right. And all, whenever Kirk landed on a local planet, all the natives all seemed to speak English. So clearly somebody had written those episodes. We didn't see them to make all those things possible. And we view GlobaliD's mission is to write those missing scenes that make that simpler future possible.
Could I make the claim that the GlobaliD platform empowers the user to control his or her own information?
Absolutely.
Yes, but it's not just about rights. It's also about responsibilities, because you're controlling it, but you can have 100% control, but if you don't share or make that available to other parties that are relying on it, you never get anything, because then you're only like living in your own isolation. So the world of what doesn't matter whether you're a communist or a capitalist, we live in an exchange society. And so whether we're exchanging goods for money or other interactions, you're always looking to have a trusted interaction with other parties. And so a big part of our infrastructure is, how do you build tools to support trusted engagement? And we've all seen how Facebook does it. You have to be a prisoner of the Facebook ecosystem. The question is, how do you do that not trapped within one social media network? How do you do that as a general construct? And really, that's the foundational work that GlobaliD is doing.
That's actually one of my questions. How do you do that by not being trapped into this one sort of ecosystem?
Yeah, Greg kind of briefly described the thinking behind verifiable credentials. Maybe I can provide more of a technical description there as well. So it's a three-party system that a lot of people call the trust system. So you have issuer, you have a verifier, and you have a holder. And it's very similar to our physical world. I mean, you would go to, here in the United States, to DMV to get a driver's license. So the DMV kind of issues you a driver's license, which is a verifiable credential, and then you store it in your wallet. And then when you walk around and you need to prove that you're over 21 to buy beer from the store is the verifier. So the same principle happens here. As Greg mentioned, we use a lot of cryptography, and it's a standard. Now, there is one key important thing there, which is called a decentralized identifier. And the easiest way to look at this is, it's kind of like a public key that the issuer puts on the blockchain, and that public key needs to be used. That it needs to be used whenever the verifier is verifying the data. So let's say DMV now issues me a digital credential. I hold it in my phone, and it's nowhere else online. So that also kind of plays nicely with all of, for example, the Europe's GDPR and US CCPA that we have here in California and so on. So nobody else has that information, and then I choose when I want to share that with, for example, the store, if I want to buy beer or something. And there are actually two good advantages. One is, the Greg mentioned, selectively sharing the data. So not only I can pick and choose, okay, I'm just going to share date of birth and maybe the picture from that government ID with that store, so they can check that I'm over 21. There's one other thing that's called zero knowledge proofs, where I can just share maybe the photo and the zero knowledge proof that I'm over 21. So I can even hide the fact when I was born to the store, but they can still be 100% certain that I am over 21. And maybe just the last bit, that I mentioned, that's the only piece that kind of lives on the blockchain.
So how do you, Greg mentioned the trusted interaction, right? This is a trusted interaction. How do you achieve this trusted interaction while providing safety and eliminating interference by a third party, such as maybe GlobaliD or the government or whoever? Yeah. I mean, this may be just sort of a layperson's question. This is not my space. I'm just trying to understand it more. Yeah. So is this where blockchain comes in?
It's a very fair question. No, it's where blockchain comes in is the verifying part. So the way we achieve this is that the way we build GlobaliD is that we don't know anything about you. So that's the thing. So we act as a cloud. So the closest way to compare this would be, for example, a lot of a lot of people are using password managers. So what happens is the data gets encrypted, decrypted on your device itself. So maybe we have the mobile app, so it happens there. With the password managers, usually happens as an extension in the browser or something, and then that data gets just kind of an encrypted version of that data gets sent to the cloud, and we just store that. So in case you lose your phone or something, we still have an option to recover your identity and restore it. But we give you a key, and with that key, you control your identity, and that key is only known to you and nobody else, including GlobaliD. Another thing that we're trying to do as much as we can of is anything that we store, we're trying to keep it as anonymous as possible. So even if or when the hackers are going to hack GlobaliD, they're going to get the data, and if they brute force the encrypted data and so on, they might still get just bits and pieces. So they might get Nina, they might get Greg, and they might get a date of birth, but they're not going to know which date of birth goes with Nina or Greg. So there's a number of things that we're trying to do to kind of make it as secure as possible, but the bottom line is that your data actually lives on your device, which is your mobile phone, and that acts as a key to unlock the doors, share the PII, or do anything else that you want to do.
Okay, I'll try to.
Let me just summarize the key point on Mitya's piece. He mentioned it, but just to emphasize it, is GlobaliD is the protocol that allows this all to happen, but we don't have the keys to unlock your data. So even if the government came and said, "Well, I really want to see some information about Greg or Nina," we can say, "Well, that's fine, but we don't have the keys." And so that's an interesting thing where we can build the protocol and we can operate it from the cloud, but that doesn't mean that we ourselves have access to that data. So that's what makes it super private to the end user. If they do share it with, say, a regulated entity that needs that access, they can share that access right with that one entity without, again, putting that data out there for everyone else to see. So that's a key design criteria, is that even we don't have access to the data. Whereas, of course, with Facebook, they have access to all your data.
Is there anything else? There's a lot to digest here, but is there anything else that maybe you'd like to add that we didn't cover, or maybe they didn't ask, or that you would like to share?
Well, I think I would just summarize by saying that, ultimately this is a question of what kind of world do we want to live in. We've the last sort of 10 years has been a world of social media. And I will give credit both to Mark and to Jack. I think they both realize that world is coming to an end as the dominant paradigm. I mean, Mark proactively disrupted himself by deciding that Facebook is old news, and he has called his new company Meta. You can question the sincerity, but I would not question the fact that he realizes that the cheese has moved, and there's going to be a new game in town. And Jack resigning from Twitter and deciding to put his energy into the world of Square and what Square is beginning to do with blockchain and DeFi is an indication that even the titans of today realize that the world is shifted and changing. And so we all as individuals and in the organizations that we're part of, we can be, part of that change, or we can there's a little poem that I hear, I believe I hear, which is, each day I hope and pray that tomorrow will be the same as today. And so there will be a large group of people, groups, and organizations that are kind of holding on to the Web 2.0 world just because it's familiar and it's economically beneficial for them to do so. So just like you might be suspect of whether Exxon is going to be the folks that bring us the solar energy solution of the future, disrupting themselves, I would question whether we expect the Web 2.0 titans to be the ones that are going to leading the charge to disrupt themselves and bring the new world. They might do some things defensively, but I think the future is going to be brought by a new generation of founders, a new generation of protocols, and a new generation of risk takers, rather than the usual suspects bringing us the future that we or our kids are going to live in. And so I am encouraging everyone to be proactive and self-responsible and start to do the things that will make us familiar with being in charge of our own destiny, as opposed to kind of leaving that to the titans of industry and the usual suspects in government. So embrace it, be a little bit afraid of it, but be proactive and be part of it rather than having it just happen to you. That's my swan song on that one.
Wow, thanks, Greg. I couldn't have said it better myself. Mitya, any final thoughts?
No, I mean, you cannot top what Greg just said.
No.
So I would just add that if you are interested in kind of, I mean, we talked about a lot of things, but to reach out, whether you're just interested in exploring the space, you want to join GlobaliD, or you just want to work with us as well. I mean, any way, shape, or form, please do so, because it's going to take a lot of us to kind of start to make this revolution happen.
Yeah, and Rome wasn't built in a day either, right? So, well, thanks so much for teaching us about digital identity, sovereign identity, what you guys are contributing, giving us sort of the motivation to think about what kind of world we want to live in. This was definitely extremely informative for me. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure the listeners will as well. So thanks so much. We'd love to have you back in maybe some time to see how you're progressing and where you are with your roadmap in the future. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, you too. Thanks again to our guest, as well as thank you everyone for listening. A big thanks goes to CoinMarket League for co-sponsoring this episode. Thank you also to the Barian Music team for providing their music. You can check out their latest album on barianmusic.com. You can find all supporting information on our website, blockchainrecorded.com, and listen to us on Google, Apple, and Amazon podcasts, as well as Spotify, Radio Public, and Stitcher. Stay healthy and tuned for our next episode.